All right, Picatinny rails installed. Time for the MDT rings. Now the instructions are on the back. Comes with everything you need, including this little hex wrench, Allen wrench, whatever you guys call them in the States. We call those Allen keys. Follow the instructions, but where, how far forwards, all somewhat determined by how big the old scope is. What rings do you buy? How high? Depends on how big your scope is, your Picatinny rail is, how wide the band on your... Now, if I've measured properly, these medium-sized rings will fit sweet. But if anybody hasn't seen how to do that, if you're ordering online, I'm just going to take a minute to do this because this is the first time I've done this brand new ring, so I just want to get a feel for them. First impressions is they're real nice and really well crafted. I like that feeling. So let's say you've ordered a scope because, I don't know, someone online had a good deal, or you've scored one off a mate or online or whatever. How do you know what scopes, like height I'm talking about? Obviously the circumference or width is like, it's a 30mm scope, it's a 30mm tube, it's a 30mm ring, okay? So on and so forth. But how high? Obviously they come in low, medium, highs in the basic forms. They get a little bit more pedantic after that. You can get really peculiar heights. A little trick is to get yourself a big ball of what we call blue tack in Australia, and you're just going to get your scope racked up on, it's really really like a DIY job. Rack the blue tack piles really high, put your scope on it where you kind of want it, line yourself up cheek weld, take some selfies, move your scope forward and backwards so you get your eyebrow clear, and make sure you've got enough space here between the clearance between the barrel and the bottom of the scope, so there's a bit of movement in that action, so you don't, any heating up or movement of the stock versus the barrel doesn't, like, it all should move as one, but you just don't want that too fine a margin. You certainly don't want rubbing or kissing. So if you haven't seen the blue tack trick, pile it up and then you measure the blue tack, and then whatever the blue tack height is, you've got to then make some judgment call as to where the ring sits, and then the height to the base of the scope, and then that height you'll be able to see on the manufacturer's specs as to whether you want a low, medium or high ring. So that is pretty cool. Now, position ring base A on the rail to ensure base is seated firmly forward to mitigate the recoil. So let's do that. Maybe we should take the tops off first, because then you guys will be able to see what we're doing. Tops have to come off anyways. That'd be cool if that stayed with that one. On this particular set of rings, both rings are identical. I've never set up a set of rings that were different. Not saying there aren't any, but oh, I like this. Man, check this out. Can you guys see? That is just the securing pins. Don't you love it when shit's well made? There is nothing. There's no wriggle in that, forward and backwards. The dovetail pinch sits underneath, naturally, Picatinny rail. Now, we just get these started. I have no idea if I want this scope this far forward or not. You're going to see me do this in real time. If you want like a short, quick edit, let me know, and maybe I'll just like fast forward some bits. I don't know. Now, just me being me, I have put the screw heads on the left-hand side of the rifle because it's a right-handed action, so the bolt and all the action and clearance happens over here. Because they do protrude just oddly compared to the rest. This is just a bit smoother, so my imagination tells me that just a few less things happening on that right-hand side of the action is probably a good idea. Now these cross bolts that I've just very loosely placed because I haven't even laid the scope on it to see if it's in the right place. So what I typically do is lay them on real loose, just enough to know that they're going to stay in position. Gently lay the scope on top. I'll stop videoing for all this part, but then I would, and what I'm about to do is move the scope back and forth until such time that I had the reticle nice and clear on my cheek weld, and there was enough clearance. So I've got the scope where I want it. Once it's where I want it, then I can decide if I want to move the rings forward or backwards along the tube of the scope. Once I've decided all of that, then we start talking about 25 to 30 inch-pounds worth of force to hold them in place. And so on and so forth. So I've got I knew to put this a fair way forward to start with because I've got a 61 centimeter Akubra, like it's not a small head. And where I put my rifle, I like it quite low compared to maybe what other people have, just because I've got a bit of a strabismus on this right eye, hence the glasses. And so when I cheek weld, you'll see that I've got a heap of clearance already under here. That's not the clearance recommended. You actually have that much lower, but when I did my measurements and stuff, I did that based off where I want my head to rest on my big size head. So yes, there's that. But I'll get back to you as to where I decide to put this. That's a more personal decision, whether you move it forward, backwards. I can tell you right now that the magnification ring needs a bit more clearance, so regardless, it's got to come close, and you don't want the curvature bell to be anywhere near that. So I've got some movement to do, and then we'll keep moving.